All right, this is a video I've been wanting to put together for a while. This has been about 2-year troubleshooting, buying a whole bunch of stuff to figure out. There's my bin of a whole bunch of stuff that I got. But I've ultimately ended up with a civilian tactical type radio. If you found this video and you're looking it up, or if it's got shared with you or whatever, you have your reasons for wanting a setup like this. There's all kinds of reasons: airsoft, training. You might just want something like this if you're out snowmobiling, so you have a good headset to be able to communicate with other people. ATV, off-road. I mean, you could use different type of radio setup, airplane, whatever. Basically, what I finally found was using a civilian type Baofeng radio. This specific one that I ended up with is the BF-A58. With real headsets, and I have some Liberator 2s. And I also have, this is a real headset that I purchased with the push-to-talk that works with all this. This right here is the key part. I'm gonna go through different options that I had found and what I've settled with and why I did that. So the radio that I settled on using for my setup is the Baofeng BF-A58. Reason being, waterproof and anti-dust. Well, it's a cheap radio. I mean, I got this for less than $30 shipped to my house. I ended up getting a whole bunch of them. I haven't completely submerged it in the water yet, but it has gotten wet and banged around, and it's held up pretty good. Not this particular one, the one that's set up on my kit. The fact that it's waterproof and dustproof is part of the reason, but the second and the more important reason why I went to this is the way the connector is on the side. Oh, I took it off so you could see it. This looks very similar to Motorola type connectors. You can see there's like a glazing over it, and when you put a connector on there, it touches individual pins. This is also how you program the radio, and it's fastened down with a screw. This push-to-talk adapter's off. You can see it matches up with what needs to be. It's got the screw. And then there's a little fin that tucks up in there, and as you tighten it, it squeezes it together. I was very happy to find this radio with that type of connector because I don't even have one to show you anymore, but with the Baofeng UV5R type, it has like those two headphone jacks. One's a 3.5mm and a 2.5mm. Those absolutely suck if you're going to even just put this in your pocket, because after like one day of really going out and using it and being even moderately rough on it, the pins start to get bad connections. And what I had happen with my push-to-talk was it was in there enough to cause the speaker to not work on the radio, but not in all the way, so I wasn't hearing or able to transmit on my push-to-talk. So basically I had all this comm gear on and it was doing nothing for me, and I'd only used it for a couple hours. With that being said, this is not a very common type radio. It really hasn't caught on. I think that they will moving forward. There's some other models that are similar to this that use the same connector. These are all Baofeng radios. The UV9R, GT3WP, the BF9700, which is extremely similar to this, except it doesn't have a keypad. You have to hook it up and program it, and it just has a simple switch on the top for switching between, I think, like 12 channels. So because of that, finding a push-to-talk adapter for it was extremely hard. Here's one of the BF9700s, but I wanted to show you the one thing I don't like about this and the A58, but it's not a deal breaker for me, is on the back, on your UV5Rs, you have the two little screws, and then you press, and it's got the little belt clip, right? Well, this one has like this nipple that screws in, and then it has this plastic. So I guess the idea is you can latch this on your belt, and instead of taking the latch off, you can put this on and slide it, and it kind of clicks in place. But this is really bulky, so you can't leave this clip thing on and put it inside like a gear pouch or something like that. Whereas with like the UV5R type little clip in the back, it's pretty narrow compared to this, so it's not that big of a deal. You could still use it. So what I did on my other one, like I said, I'll say it later in the video, I got some Velcro on the back and I just took this off so it just sticks. So you can't really click it onto anything. But I suppose if someone in the future, you could come up with something like this, that like inside your pouch is like a double security. You could put it on, or I mean, you know, it'll go on your belt loop or your pocket like this if you're not too concerned, you know, if you're not using it on your gear. But wanted to mention that. That's probably the only real downfall of that, and there's no extended batteries for them yet. You just have the regular batteries, but I can get a solid 8 hours of using the radio when I'm out hiking and training and stuff, and talking a moderate amount on with the radio, and the battery doesn't die. And now we'll move on to antennas. Okay, so for antennas, most of your Baofeng radios are going to come with your little medium-sized rubber ducky that, you know, sorry, my focus is not doing very well here. It will get the job done, but it doesn't really work well. So the next upgrade is just getting a better antenna that threads in. Nagoya makes very good antennas. This I actually found out later on is a fake Nagoya. If you find the Nagoya website, they do a great job of pointing out to you how you can immediately identify if their antenna is fake. So through my journey, these are nice. They're durable. They're pretty hard to break. I mean, it's just a piece of metal, but it's annoying. Like if you got it on your kit and all of a sudden this is poking up your nose or poking you in the ear or getting tangled up in your sling, which any antenna is going to do. So the next solution that I moved up to was putting an adapter from SMA, which is the type that these radios have, to a BNC. And the adapter looks like this. Very simple, cheap. And what I did, because they will eventually come loose, is you could probably see it on here, but I put a whole bunch of thread locker on it so it won't come loose. Now, what does that do for you? Well, you can get different length antennas. Nagoya does make some, or other brands do, that have BNC on them, and they will go on and off the adapter very easily. They're spring loaded. You find where the cam lines up, push down, twist, and it locks in. This is just a little antenna. So if this is how you have it set in your kit, you can change your antennas out, or if you can change your antennas out easily. The SMA you screw on and off, but it could be a big pain in the ass. It won't happen as quickly. You can also set it up where, say, you're vehicle mounted. So like if you're somebody who's looking for some sort of solution on a motorized vehicle because you want to be able to keep in communication with the people you're riding with or whatever, you can actually put an amplifier on your vehicle and run this low watt radio through an amplifier and amplify it so that more people can hear you at a farther distance. I don't have it here with me, but using one of like the 14.5-inch long BNC was my solution for like a year and a half. It worked pretty good because what you could do is tuck this in your kit and then take the flexible antenna and sort of tuck it through like one of these little shoulder pieces or something just to kind of keep it out of your way, but it ends up still getting in the way. Things will get stuck on it. I mean, everything on your gear stuff ends up getting stuck on. The solution I found about a month and a half ago was, here's my radio pouch. I can just pull this out. It's not hooked up. This little doohickey. It's an antenna. It's called the VMAS, and it's made by Disco 32 Tactical Antenna Systems. I'll put a link in the description to it. They make a couple different models with different adapters. I just got the straight BNC. And what this does is, if you can see up here, from here to here, it appears to be the actual antenna. The rest of this is just a wire, and you can web it however you want through your kit, and it's covered by this great protective coating. The antenna is all water resistant, very durable BNC connector down here, and wire to keep it so if it's getting bent around in your gear, it won't fray and split. So far with all my experience, it works great. I'm not seeing any different distance-wise goes from using the regular 14.5. I don't get as fancy as testing things like SWR to see if there's a massive amount of feedback. I don't think that there is, because it says that the antenna is meant to work on the frequencies that these will. But I'm not getting into radio operation technicals in this video. I just wanted to show you the way the kit is. But this antenna is awesome. I'm sure there's antennas that will get you better, but for something that's out of the way to use within your team, or, you know, maybe a mile or so away, it works really well. And I say a mile, it all depends on your terrain. I have hilly terrain where I do a lot of training at my ranch and stuff, so I usually just guesstimate it's going to be about a mile, unless they're in like a really deep bowl or cave or something like that. That covers the antenna stuff. Push to talk. So like I'd said earlier, one of the biggest challenges I had after discovering that radio was a push to talk. There's 10,000 cheap airsoft toys. I call them toys. You know, they serve a purpose. And I did use them for a while. That hook up to the UV5R with the two headphone pins. Couldn't find one with this. Obviously, I did eventually. I was told that you could get a Motorola GP series to work, which I was barely able to rig up on this connector, but it doesn't quite match and the threads are different. So it wasn't reliable, and I was looking for reliable. So I contacted a website called PX Airsoft, and I asked them, because they had probably one of the biggest varieties of airsoft stuff that I could find. I said, hey, do you make one for the Baofeng A58? Probably 2 months went by, and I didn't hear anything, and all of a sudden they just replied back to me, and they said, here, with a link. They actually started making this PTT because I asked them to. I mean, maybe somebody else asked them too, but it's not the cheapest thing. You actually pay just as much for this push to talk with the shipping, because of course it's an airsoft company and it's coming from Hong Kong. Maybe once they come more popular, it'll come down. But it is just airsoft, so it's not like this push to talk is waterproof or anything like that. And you can see this glued piece that I have on here. The company Disco 32 again has this, and it's not like the highest quality thing in the world. You can see the little rivets. It's 3D printed, and from my sling hitting it, it's kind of ripped off these little ribs. But what was happening to me all the time is if I was riding my ATV with my rifle slung, I was hot micing. And all the people in my valley and stuff, because I ride a lot solo out there, I keep my radio and stuff on my gear. So if something happened to me, I can call out to one of my neighbors a few miles away and they could come help me so I don't just die. So this piece, it's not very much. I ordered the antenna in this from, it's the U94 PTT Safety. That's what they call it. All I did was take some super glue. For my particular application, I actually had to drill the hole here bigger, not better. And just glued it on, and it stayed on. I've done a couple trips. It's got tugged real hard by my sling. Used some good glue. But for the cost of it, if you feel like you're going to wear them out, get a couple. When they wear out, use them again. Great option for this, so you don't accidentally hot mic all the time. It worked great. But anyway, they make this PX Airsoft in 2 models. They have one that is for reproduction headsets, which is like Z Tactical, which they make a ton of airsoft toy type headsets. One of them, which I have here, the Bowman style. And this was the setup that I used for a very long time. Simple, effective, it works. They also make one that's for real headsets. Doesn't work with all real headsets. It only is wired differently right here, because I'm not going to get into too fancy, but this actually uses the same pin as a lot of the real military ones, but the corresponding rings right here that it touches are different on the military one. So that's all they changed. You know, this setup works pretty good. It's loud. It's reasonably durable for what it is. Although after using it for a couple years, I did start to get a little bit of separation right here. So the wires, this setup with the headset was $60 altogether, give or take. So that is a more cost-effective route. And like I said, there's a million different options for the reproduction headsets. Now here, this ended up being I want something good that's not going to keep breaking, that's comfortable. I also wanted something with good hearing protection. I got the Z Tactical headsets that are like the copies of the MSA Sword-In Liberator 2s. They were what you'd expect. It was an airsoft grade, so it wasn't comfortable. It didn't really work as a hearing protection. The sound amplifier that's built into headphones or headsets like this, it really wasn't that great. The mic didn't sound fantastic, and all their adjustments and plastic mounting stuff sucked. Anyway, PTT. This one is made by SkyEye Tactical. Found out about them about a month and a half ago. Wish I found out about them sooner, because they made exactly what I was looking for all kinds of different options. They make different push-to-talks, and their main goal is taking civilian type radios and making real military stuff work. This is actually a real military U94 PTT that they converted. They make different versions of it depending on the type of headset you're looking to use. I need an amplified PTT, and I have a dynamic microphone in this headset. That's what I needed. They open it up, they modify it to take this signal, get changed in here, and work in that headset. They add tamper-proof screws. Obviously, they put this good quality lead that will attach to your radio. They put this little rubber sleeve that helps with waterproofing. They actually replaced the button, and they build in a hot mic protector, so you need to have a little more effort to press that in. And you can feel the difference with this. I mean, this is a very sturdy, good, you can tell it was a real military piece compared to like this one that is just like a cheap, you can even hear when you click the button, it's just like a cheaper plastic. They make a bunch of different versions of this for the UV5R 2-pin type. They sell everything on an eBay store. I'll put a link to their eBay store and this specific item in the description, as with most of this other stuff, if you're looking for it. So as I already talked about, I have my Liberator 2s. They're great. They're hearing protection, communications. There's models where you can have two separate types of communications hooked up to each ear. It has the hearing amplification for low noise type stuff. But I didn't want to always have to wear that headset, because I've been using that cheap Bowman for a while, and that's nice if you want to just throw it on quick, wear it under a hat. You know, you're not going out doing a ton of shooting, you just want your radio on. So the SkyEye Tactical sells a combo kit with this headset that will be compatible with that PTT. This is a TASC3 headset. I guess it's similar to like a diver's headset. Don't know too much about that. It is actually a surplus headset like they do with their PTTs, and they modify it and they put a new mic cover and headset piece on there. So the reason why I paid the extra money to get this, which wasn't cheap, was because this cheaper reproduction headset is not going to be compatible with this PTT. So I wanted to have both options with the good push-to-talk on my radio, so I don't need to change a lot of stuff out in my kit. One thing I forgot to put in the video when I was making it, and I wanted to splice in here, was if you're trying to use a real headset like the Liberator 2s that I have, and you plug them into a reproduction PTT like the cheaper PX Airsoft one that I have, you might be able to hear just a very little bit of the transmission coming into you, but it's going to be super low. And again, that's because some of the wires don't match up. And also, it's not an amplified PTT to amplify for the higher quality speakers that are in there. And depending on the type of headset they're using as well, it's possible that, for example, that the wire, the connection, the way that the wires are twisted, that if you go to transmit or you receive a signal, it could feed improperly to, like, say, your incoming radio transmission signal to your mic, and then it could damage your headset. Generally, the military grade stuff is built to withstand stuff like that. You don't want to take the chance of damaging your equipment, especially if it's expensive. There's a lot of write-up on this, you know, because it all depends on what headset you have, what type of microphone. Like there's the dynamic, and then there's like electric or something like that. You're going to have to confirm the place SkyEye Tactical. They have pretty good customer service through their messaging on eBay. So you can message them and say, hey, here's the headset that I have. What PTT do I need? And then also the radio, and they'll help you out. All right, so here's everything set up on my kit. Last thing I'll talk about is this pouch. It's made by UR Tactical, as is a lot of the stuff on here. This is their radio pouch. It's got a little slot up here for your antenna to come through. Doing all this one-handed makes it much more challenging, but see, the reason why I like the BNC, so you can open this all the way. You can take that out of the way for a bit, and it's got strings, so if you got to change your channels or something like that, you can even really do the channels one-handed, see what you got going on. You can reach in through the top if you really need to and adjust your volume up and down if it's too much or too little. It comes with a Velcro backing, and then what it had was a little like clear plastic that you could put around your radio. What I opted to do instead is I just added Velcro to the back of this, and then with this PTT wire, there's just enough to be able to wrap it around the radio and have it kind of come out the bottom. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all this one-handed. I'll fast forward if I need. All right, got it all buttoned up, and you can see my VMAS just kind of goes up in my gear. My PTT attached to the side of one of my mag pouches up front. You know, that's just a personal preference thing, wherever you're going to attach your PTT, and then it's going to my headset. So I got all my stuff set up like I showed you, and the one radio that I was showing at the beginning is just set over there with the volume all the way up. And just to show you that it actually works, radio check over. You should have been able to hear the radio transmitting over me. And you know, you can't hear inside my headphones, but I did test it with my wife, and she can talk back to me, and it's very clear. You can even hear pretty well if you just keep it close to your mouth and you talk at a whisper, and it comes out pretty good. And that's the reason why you have the dynamic dynamic microphone. But anyways, this setup right here is awesome. It's not cheap. The combination kit with the PTT and this headset from the SkyEye Tactical was like $260 shipped. But with experimenting with all the cheaper stuff that I did and the different radios, it actually would have been cheaper for me over the years if I just found this one good setup, the one good radio. That's the reason why I'm putting this video together. I might not be the best at explaining it, but I know I'm not the only person out there looking for it. There was a lot of people that were looking, you know, they had something like this, a good headset that they kept from the military, and they're like, oh, I still want to use it with other stuff. And there's a few people who were like cutting these open and modifying them to work, and why do that? These are great headsets. Why mess with them and, you know, get proper gear? And obviously there's no way that you can really obtain military type full comm gears, because they can hold encryption and all that stuff in their protected equipment. So even if you had it, you wouldn't really be able to go out and use it. So I have not used the particular setup you see on my gear right now for very long. So I'll probably do a follow-up video explaining if I had any problems with it. But everything I read about this SkyEye Tactical, they've been making good comms gears for a long time. I think since the early 2000s, when all that airsoft stuff got really popular, where people were like spending just as much money on airsoft as they were real firearms and stuff like that. So I can't think of anything else that I really want to say in the video right now for this. If you found this video and you have any questions, leave me like a comment with a question. Also take a look at my entire YouTube channel, because like I said, I'm going to do follow-up stuff on this. putting this together to show to friends. I've had people that saw my comm setups in pictures and they asked me questions about how it worked. So I wanted to put all this together, hopefully help people at least know what's available out there to buy. Not everybody's going to want to spend as much as I did, because even these headsets to buy themselves, the Liberators, are pretty expensive. I got a phenomenal deal from somebody on these. I think I paid like $180 with brand new gel cups, and these are barely used. Awesome. I'm going to have these for the rest of my life. It's not like I'm out there using my gear for my job, but like I said, I use it for my safety out at the ranch, you know, so I can communicate well when I'm riding on my ATV or shooting my guns, because I'm miles and miles away from anything and no cell service and stuff like that. And then I do training with my friends and stuff like that too, where, you know, we might be separate and we want to talk to each other without screaming. And even these are great, because the last and final reason why I've used these a lot is I wanted to have my radio with me, but not blinking and making all kinds of loud noises if I'm out hunting. So these are great because they amplify sound. I can talk to my neighbors if I see something. Enough of me running my mouth.